In a town ravaged by a mysterious virus outbreak, a family has been confined within a fallout shelter for 301 long days. They think they are the last survivors remaining. Ray and Claire constantly remind their daughter, Zoe, to stay quiet, maintain her composure, and never venture outside the shelter, as creatures known as breathers pose a deadly threat to her safety. One morning, Zoe awakens from a terrifying nightmare about the breathers and quickly hides under the bed. When Claire checks on her, Zoe explains that it's her talking doll who feels scared. So, Claire decides to take her to see Ray to help calm her down. As they stroll through the shelter, the shadows send a shiver down Zoe's spine, but it's merely Ray shifting about. He reassures her that they are safe and engages in a playful game they both enjoy, called Report. During this game, Zoe shares the details of his watch to confirm that everything is as it should be. Zoe remains anxious about the entrance, prompting Ray to allow her to ascend the ladder towards the hatch. The girl meticulously checks all the locks and chains, ensuring that everything is secure. Finally satisfied, she makes her way back to her parents. Afterward, Zoe makes another mark on the wall, keeping track of the days they've spent there. She picks a can of peaches for breakfast, though it's not as if they have many choices to begin with. It appears that the water pump is malfunctioning, prompting Ray to open it up and address some internal components to restore its functionality. Out of nowhere, Zoe exclaims that the food can is empty, and upon closer inspection, a hole is discovered on the side. Claire and Ray inspect the pantry, only to find that 12 cans have been emptied, equating to 2 weeks' worth of rations. As they toss everything aside, they come to the realization that a rat must have slipped in through the air duct. Zoe feels anxious about the possibility of the breathers getting inside, but her parents reassure her that the air duct is far too small for them to fit through. Claire then announces, "We'll have to start eating less," to which Zoe responds with a complaint saying, "But we're already eating very little." They find themselves having beans for breakfast, and Claire just can't stop grumbling about it. She despises being unable to play outside, feeling the weight of loneliness without friends, and the emptiness of having nothing at all. Ray quickly reprimands her, emphasizing that she still has her parents, a privilege not shared by those who perished on the day of the outbreak. It's not an ideal existence, but at least they are still breathing. He refers to every mark on the wall as a miracle. Following breakfast, the family gathers around to enjoy a board game together. Ray softly closes Zoe's eyes with tender fingers, creating soothing sounds as he weaves a story, inviting her to picture them back in town, enjoying ice cream together. This lifts Zoe's spirits. Later, Ray and Claire have a private discussion about the situation. Claire feels anxious since they've already shed some pounds. In response, Ray assures her that he'll step outside to fetch food if needed. Once they finish, Ray drifts off to sleep, only to be haunted by nightmares of the outbreak day. After a while, as they engage in the board game with Claire, Zoe can't help but ponder whether they are indeed the last survivors remaining. Claire hands the periscope they crafted to Zoe, allowing her to peek outside through the air duct. Initially, Zoe feels a surge of excitement, but the outcome turns out to be quite disappointing. The town lies in desolation, and suddenly, a bird startles her. She feels a wave of relief wash over her as she notices the shelter hatches firmly secured. It dawns on her that they might indeed be the last ones remaining. Yet, Claire gently reminds her that sometimes, the truth can be obscured from their view. Out of nowhere, Zoe spots something shifting and uncovers the rat feasting on another can in the pantry. They rouse Ray from his slumber, and without hesitation, he draws his dagger, cautiously advancing toward the rat. Just as he's ready to strike, the rat scurries away, toppling one of the lamps in its frantic escape. With a swift motion, Claire seizes the wrench and brings it down on the rat, ensuring it can't make its getaway. In that instant, they observe the flames from the lamp beginning to spread across the table. Ray touches the glass and suddenly understands the impending danger. In a split second, he pushes his family back just before the lamp bursts into a shower of sparks. A large fire erupts on the table, consuming the board game, prompting Claire to urgently prevent Zoe from attempting to save it. As Ray battles with the water pump once more, Claire quickly conceals Zoe in the corner and seizes a large piece of cloth, determined to extinguish the flames. Zoe joins her to tackle the same task with her jacket, and after much effort, Ray finally gets the pump working again. The water extinguishes the fiercest flames, and then Ray begins to strike the table with the cloth until it shatters. The room is now completely dark, and Claire hurriedly moves to switch on another lamp. The couple is filled with panic when they realize Zoe is missing, but fortunately, they discover her hiding under the bed. Zoe sobs, expressing her fear as she reveals that smoke from the fire is escaping through the air duct, which means the breathers will notice it. A flashback reveals the events of the outbreak day. Ray and Claire were busy preparing breakfast when, out of the blue, Zoe announced that the neighbors were moving. The parents were perplexed by this situation and glanced outside to see their neighbors hurriedly packing their car to depart. Ray and Claire inquired about what had transpired, but the neighboring couple declined to respond. However, their son Joey revealed that a government official mentioned a virus in town that was causing people to behave poorly. Just as he was about to speak further, his parents whisked him away in the car. Cars sped by on the street, hurrying in every direction. Ray notes that it's nearly nightfall, so fingers crossed it will be too dark for the breathers to notice the smoke. Just in case, he uses the periscope to look outside, and is horrified to see thick plumes of smoke marking their location. Claire panics, while Zoe sobs, declaring that her worst nightmare is unfolding. Ray emphasizes the importance of remaining calm, noting that even if the breathers notice the smoke now, by the time they arrive, it will have dissipated. They've searched the area before and never found them. Ray believes that won't change now, as the shelter is cleverly concealed. Regrettably, Claire comes to a realization. The smoke may dissipate, yet it leaves ash in its wake. She desires to ascend to the surface and wipe away the ash before they are discovered, and Ray concedes that they have no other option. Zoe wants to join in as well, but Claire insists that she stay behind. Ray and Claire remove the chains and, for the first time in months, open the hatch. As the couple tidies up the ground, Zoe chooses to pick up the periscope for a better view. A shadow suddenly startles her. But wait, it's just her parents. She feels a wave of relief wash over her as she sees they're okay. But her gaze continues to wander, and soon she spots an unusual creature making its way toward the area. In a state of panic, Zoe begins to scream, desperately trying to alert her parents, but her voice goes unheard. A frantic Zoe dashes to the ladder, pouring all her energy into opening the hatch, her heart racing as she realizes her family is nowhere in sight. She shouts for them, and Claire quickly rushes to cover her mouth, reminding her that being loud is not the solution. Zoe alerts them about the approaching breathers, but as the beings draw near, they discover that they are actually deer. Ray believes it was just a false alarm. However, Claire insists they were fleeing from something and urges her family to return to the shelter. Ray takes extra care to seal the entrance tightly, but the family can't shake their anxiety as they hear footsteps echoing nearby. It seems there's just one breather here, which is puzzling since they typically move in groups. With gentle care, Ray softly closes Zoe's eyes and whispers a soothing scenario, hoping to ease her fears and bring her comfort. As the footsteps echo overhead and gradually diminish, the family remains as silent as they can. Sadly, Zoe's doll becomes entangled in a pipe, leaving Zoe in a state of shock. Just then, the rope loosens, and the doll begins to make sounds. Ray swiftly snatches the doll and tears it open to dismantle the voice box, causing Zoe to burst into tears. Suddenly, the hatch begins to tremble, prompting Claire to ascend the ladder in an attempt to secure it. Just then, a descending chain strikes her on the head. One by one, the chains are shattering under the force of the tremors, as Ray battles with the water pump, pushing through until he finally conquers it. He hurries to hand the pipe to Claire, who is straining with all her might on the final chain to hold the hatch in place. Despite the breather's efforts to open it slightly, Ray seizes the moment, wielding the pipe to strike until he's forced back. Now, the couple can close the hatch once more and secure it with the pipe. The trembling eventually ceases, but the family remains aware of the heavy breathing just beyond the hatch. Out of nowhere, they catch some sounds coming from the other room and see Ken rolling on the ground. The whole shelter trembles, and the family understands that the breather has summoned more of his kind to launch an assault. In another flashback, we see that on the day of the outbreak, Ray's family made an attempt to flee in their car as well. As they drove down the road, a wave of surprise washed over them at the sight of cars heading back. Eventually, they uncovered the unsettling truth. The authorities had blocked the way, declaring their town under quarantine. This meant that no one was permitted to leave. Out of nowhere, a rock crashed onto Ray's car as an earthquake shook the region. At last, the hatch gives way, and a team of breathers makes their entrance. The family rushes into the other room, and Claire shatters a lamp to ignite a fire. Next, she and Ray shift the pantry to obstruct the path. It won't keep the breathers for long, so Ray hops onto the chair and assists Claire and Zoe in escaping through the air duct, as they're small enough to fit. Then Claire attempts to assist Ray in navigating the duct as well, but sadly, he just won't fit. In a moment of sheer desperation, Ray allows Claire to seize his wrist, resulting in a painful dislocation of his shoulder. Now Claire can pull him through the duct. Just as he's on the verge of escaping, the breathers seize his legs and pull him back into the shelter. Ray boldly faces them, and a clash breaks out. In the pitch black, visibility is nearly non-existent. Suddenly, Claire and Zoe let out piercing screams as they spot a gruesome splatter of blood, leading them to believe that Ray has met a tragic fate. Suddenly, they catch sight of shadows drawing near, and the pair sprints away with all their might. They navigate through the forest, stumbling a few times, until they finally arrive at the road, littered with the abandoned cars from the day of the outbreak. A helicopter emerges in the sky, its searchlight sweeping across the landscape to locate them. As Claire and Zoe make a desperate attempt to escape, the helicopter swoops down, ensnaring them in a net and capturing them with ease. The breathers draw nearer, and it becomes clear that they are not monsters. They are, in fact, soldiers donning face masks. In a moment of sheer panic, the duo finds themselves at the mercy of the soldiers, who approach with a needle in hand. Suddenly, another flashback unfolds, revealing the truth of what really transpired. The tremors from the mountain were not caused by an earthquake. A fleet of jets began dropping bombs all around town to eliminate the infected individuals. In the midst of chaos and fear, as people scrambled to escape, Claire recalled the local school's shelter. With urgency, the family hurried to seek refuge, successfully sealing the hatch just moments before another bomb struck nearby. They surveyed the shelter and discovered an abundance of food, along with toys for Zoe. Ray referred to the attack as a mistake. However, Claire disclosed that she sustained a cut on her hand during the escape, and they were, in fact, infected. The wound was darkening and extending across her hand. Currently, the soldiers complete the collection of blood samples and pose several questions to verify that these are indeed the last remaining survivors. As they prepare to take aim at the duo, Claire begins to lose her grip, causing her veins to shift in color. It appears that the guideline, "Never lose control," indicates that intense emotions trigger the virus, leading to transformations in those infected. In that instant, a completely transformed Ray emerges, unleashing chaos upon the soldiers. It dawns on Zoe that the blood she witnessed in the shelter was, in fact, her father on a violent rampage. Ray takes down several soldiers, but the odds are against him. They respond with a hail of bullets, and Ray falls. As the soldiers attend to Ray, the duo makes their daring escape from the net. Zoe takes refuge in a car, while Claire embraces her transformation, unleashing her fury on the soldiers around her. Just like what happened with Ray, she takes down several of them, but the final one shoots her leg, causing her to fall. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, Zoe undergoes a transformation, launching into an intense fight before finally taking off the mask. She desires to end his life, but Claire intervenes, unwilling to let her daughter become a killer. Zoe is spiraling and lashes out at her mother, who calmly recites the rules and uses soothing words to guide Zoe in reversing the transformation. Afterward, Zoe carefully wraps up her mom's wound and inquires about the last soldier. Claire responds that they should leave him on the ground, allowing the virus to take him. Then they check on Ray, who gently closes his daughter's eyes one final time before passing away. Suddenly, the helicopter reappears, prompting the duo to dash and seek refuge in the sewer system. As they stealthily navigate their surroundings, a sudden movement in the shadows catches them off guard. To their astonishment, it's Zoe. The boy discloses that a group of survivors resides in the sewers, offering Claire and Zoe the chance to join them. As they descend to meet them, Zoe catches sight of the sunlight for the first time in months and counts 302 miracles.